Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Cuppa with Craig. And today we are going to discuss a big one. Mr. Nigel Farage. Is he in trouble? There's also a couple of other little bits I'm going to catch up about. Notably, some pretty appalling scenes in the UK. But we'll get to that. That's for a little bit further along. As always, we're unedited, we're unscripted. Got a couple of little talking points I want to get through with you. But it's Friday. It's the 22nd, 22nd of May. It's actually going to be nice this weekend. Bank holiday weekend coming up. So as usual, I'm just going to kick back. We're going to take our time. We're going to have a cuppa. Get yourself one. Get yourself a cup of tea. Get yourself a cup of coffee. It's just what I've got. And yeah, we'll get through it a little bit because, as far as I can tell, Mr. Nigel Farage is on their back foot. Right? Is it over for him? Is it over for Nigel Farage? Because it might sound dramatic, right? But tell me, what is the point of Nigel Farage if Labour are starting to get in control of immigration, which is what everyone's been asking for? I keep hearing this. I keep hearing these lines of immigration's out of control. Immigration's out of control. Is it out of control anymore? Because the stats got released yesterday. You might have seen. Hopefully, you did. It was on the news that the ONS came out with. That's the Office of National Statistics, by the way. And we'll get on to that because people, for some reason, are still questioning the stats. It's a conversation for a little bit. I'll actually write that down because I'll probably forget. Sometimes it's difficult to circle back around to these things, but yeah, obviously, massive conversation in the UK over the past. I mean, we're talking before Brexit, aren't we? Really, people really concerned about immigration. It's a massive part of the discourse in the UK. How do we get on top of it? Small boat arrivals, asylum hotels, all of those different things, right? And you know what it is? I'm here for the conversation because I get it. I get why people are frustrated about it. A, it's always in the news. And B, asylum hotels aren't a good thing. People crossing on boats aren't a good thing. I don't think you should have people locked away in, disused hotels for years at a time, which is what it takes for these asylum processes, right? It's never a good idea. Never a good idea. Get them in. Anyway, we'll get to that. I'm jumping ahead a little bit. But just to go back to the ONS statistics that got released yesterday, we've had a drop of 35% in the number of people in the UK waiting for asylum. Asylum hotels are closing. More and more are getting closed. And they seem confident that they're going to get all of them closed. Good. So that's the first thing, right? Second thing, net migration. I've got written down here. At one point, it was nearly 1 million people coming into the country, I think under Boris Johnson. Now, it's down to 171,000. That is a massive drop. And you know what it is? Let's have a realistic conversation here. Do we want net zero migration? Because I certainly don't. The job I do full time, I can see labour shortages. We need workers. We need people. And that's outside of the NHS, right? The NHS gets a lot of attention, and rightfully so. They rely on a lot of foreign workers, right? But there's labour shortages across industry all over the place, whether it be welders, electricians, fitters. There's loads of skilled workers that were needed. And yes, we should be doing more to get British people through here. But right now, we need these people coming into the country, and that's one of the big drops that we've actually seen in migration, is that there's been less workers coming from outside the EU to come in and work here in the UK, and that'll affect things like food prices. Farmers, they need workers coming in and working on their farms, and if you can't get that labour, food prices go up, and that's just a fact. So yeah, that's a question, isn't it? Is Labour getting on top of it? Because it seems like it. What do people want? Because to me, that is what everyone's been asking for: a drop in the number of asylum seekers in the UK, a cutback in net migration. Small boat crossings are slightly up. I think that's a different challenge. Surely, if the people arriving here on small boats are being processed and either being allowed to stay or getting deported, isn't that what people want? I don't know. I'm intrigued. Drop a comment. Let me know what you think on that, right? Because I'll make it clear. I don't like seeing people entering the country on a small boat. It's dangerous for them. It's uncontrolled for us. We can't process these people properly. My belief is that the majority of these people do look for the authorities so they can then be processed. Because once they've arrived in the UK, they're entitled to claim for asylum. And that's that other thing, right? Constantly get labelled as illegal immigrants. The route into the country may be illegal, right? But if you're in the process of claiming for asylum, which you're entitled to do, you're not illegal. You can't be illegal. You're illegal if your asylum application gets denied and you somehow escape and you're staying in the country illegally. That's my understanding of it anyway. So this whole thing about illegal immigrants, like, it's a weird one. It is a weird one. But yeah, so that asks the question anyway. With all that in mind, with Labour cracking down on immigration, which they are, I think they're still struggling with the small votes, right? But I'd love to see Mr. Nigel Farage and come and sort that overnight. He'll do like what his pal Mr. Donald Trump did, promised to stop the war in Ukraine on day one. Not that simple, buddy. And I think that'll be the same case for Nigel Farage. It'll be the same for Rupert Lowe. What are you physically going to do to stop people coming out on small boats? You've got to offer an alternative. It's as simple as that. Offer the alternative, and that is safe and legal routes into this country. Offer the safe routes. People will take them. There'll be less demand for small boats. And if they bring this, if they come in via safe and legal routes, we can process them, and we can either deport them or we can accept them into the economy, and we can provide assistance where we need it. They can work if they can, whatever. Right. At the end of the day, if we grant these people refugee status, it's because they deserve to be refugees. Okay. So where does Nigel Farage come into all of this? So what do we need? Sorry, that's my that is my phone beeping. But yeah, sorry for that. So yeah, where does Nigel Farage come into all of that? Like, do we really want to deport millions of people out of this country? Is that because that's what this guy's promising? He wants to emulate ICE from America. He wants to build detention camps. Concentrate people all in one area. We've heard that one before, haven't we? Yeah, is that what we actually want in this country, or are we just wanting it to be controlled? Because there's a difference, isn't there? There's a scale, there's a sliding scale. Just control immigration, and process people properly, and don't have people locked away in hotels for years at a time. And then there's tearing families apart on the streets, putting people in prisons, and kicking them off back to, where these people could be in danger. So what do we actually want? Because to me, I don't think I want that reality. We're seeing what's going on in America to the point where these people are being shot in the street. American citizens are being shot in the street with these sort of politics, right? Do we look at America and think, oh, great, yeah, I want a bit of that? I know some people do. People think Trump's the best thing since sliced bread. I have not got a clue what these people are looking at. A lot of the struggle that we're seeing now, but we will see even more come next year, is because of that man. Because of what's going on in Iran, because of him just starting illegal wars, which it was an illegal war in Iran. Like the implications from that are going to hit the UK more than anywhere else because we rely on imported gas than a lot of the other advanced economies. So we are going to be hit hard, and that's because of Donald Trump. I'm not going to get on the North Sea oil and gas, right? Because that's a whole other conversation. Maybe next week we'll get into that a bit into the North Sea oil and gas conversation, because it's not as straightforward as what people think. It's not just a case of drill, baby, drill, and everything gets cheaper in the UK. It is not that straightforward. I can give you the basics. It's because basically we don't own that oil. Whoever drills it can pump it anywhere in the world they want. And also on top of that, we don't have the facilities to process the oil and gas in the UK. We just don't. So it's not a case of drill more, we get the gas, everything's cheaper. It's not that simple. As much as Nigel Farage and Richard Tice will tell you, that is not the case. But yeah. So Nigel Farage, to me, All Labour playing an absolute blinder by taking away the thing that Nigel Farage campaigns on most, and it's immigration. Because if we get around to an election in 3 years' time, and we've got net zero migration, and there's a very, very small amount of asylum seekers, what's this guy gonna? Who's he gonna blame then? Because it's going to be obvious, isn't it? It's already obvious. You know, there's been a 35% drop in asylum seekers. Is your life 35% better now? Have things got 35% better? Of course they haven't, because that's not the problem. Asylum seekers aren't the problem. Immigration's not the problem. It's the fact that all of our services are owned by, well, it's not all owned by foreign billionaires, but a lot of it is. My water company, Northumbrian Water, is owned in Hong Kong. So my bills aren't getting, they're paying dividends to shareholders in Hong Kong. Why? Meanwhile, the sewage being pumped into our rivers. That's the problem. If it was owned by the UK government, that money would be reinvested back in, upgrade infrastructure, stop the pollution. Because, I mean, who doesn't want clean rivers? Surely that's something we can all agree on. But we're allowing these private companies, these private water companies, to destroy our rivers because they got sold off by Thatcher. And then a Thatcher fanboy in Nigel Farage is benefiting from her politics. It's and then on top of that, there's Brexit. I used to work in the chemical industry. Everything in the chemical industry got more difficult off the back of Brexit. Everything. The amount of red tape, the time it took to do imports and exports, and made made trade with our closest partners more difficult. It made everything more expensive for us. And who can take the glory for that one? Mr. Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson, two people who working class people hold in high regard. They are the two people who've damaged this country more than any in my lifetime. In like the 30 plus years I've been on this planet. Honestly. But no, let's blame immigrants. Let's blame immigrants. We spend 0.5, around about 0.5% of our annual budget on immigration. 0.5%, right? Now you tell me, if you looked at your household, let's say you were absolutely skint, most of us are, and you were getting into debt. Let's say you earned 2 grand, 2 grand a month, right? It comes into your account to pay for all your bills. Let us do the maths, right? Let's do the maths. This should probably be a lot easier, but while you're in the middle of a video, let me just quickly do it. Yeah. It should have been a lot easier for me to do that, but always use a calculator when in doubt. So if you were earning £2,000 a month, right, that's what's coming in your account to cover all your bills, and you were skint every single month, you couldn't afford to keep a roof over your head, you were struggling. Would you look at the thing that was costing you £10 a month and you'd blame that? Because that's the equivalent of what we're doing with asylum seekers and refugees in the UK. And that's just pure expenditure. That's not looking at what immigration brings to the country. Because there's plenty of stats out there that prove actually that immigrants are way more likely to start businesses. They're way more likely, they're way less likely actually because of the age range that are coming into the country. They're less likely to use the NHS. They're less likely to cause a strain on the economy than what a British national would. But that goes back to this interesting thing, right? Where that is because of the age range. So because you take into account everyone, the 80-year-olds, the 90-year-olds, you're not getting many 80 and 90-year-old immigrants into the country. But you also need to apply that same thinking, that same mindset to when it comes to crime statistics. 80 and 90-year-olds are far less likely to commit crimes than a 20-year-old. So when what's that dodgy think tank called again? The one set up by the Reform, the Reform fanboy, Reform immigration think tank. What was it called? Was it Migration Watch? I don't think that's what it was called. I'm sure it was called something else. Whatever. There's a think tank anyway that that was brought out this sort of, in quotation marks, that immigrants. It was a little really weird stats basically showing that like immigrants are basically more likely to commit sexually violent offences in the UK. All these different bits and pieces, knowing precisely what they were doing in the fact that they weren't adjusting for age. So what it made it look like was that someone from Afghanistan or someone from Syria, wherever it may be, is statistically more likely to commit one of those offences than a white British person. But it's not. It's not. Because it wasn't adjusting for age. In the same way that the cost of the economy isn't the same for, like, in reality, if you adjusted for age, it would probably be the same. But it's just the fact that when you go into a doctor's or you go into A&E, there's a lot more. There's elder people in there because they use the NHS more naturally because of ill health than what a 20-year-old would. So this is, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent there, but the whole thing, man, is just like immigration statistics. You can make what you want of them, but when it comes to it, do we even want net zero migration? I don't. Our population figures are dropping. That's another fact. Look into that. There'll be soon we'll be absolutely begging for people to come to this country to work. But yeah, and that, to be honest, I segue a little bit onto this news today that I don't actually know where this was happening, which region, which town, but there was news that I think it'd been going on for a while, the court case, but there was two young girls had been abused by 3 teenage lads. Horrendous. And today they escaped jail, partly to do, I'm guessing, with their age. I don't know the details of it, but essentially they've got community services and those stuff, I think. But the top and bottom of it is that they escaped jail, right? There was just zero uproar on X. Like, because it's funny, you go on X, whenever anything's happened, you go on X and there'll be uproar. Even like when it's not being reported in the news, if an asylum seeker or someone, let's be realistic, without white skin commits a crime, Tommy Robertson, all his pals are all over it, all over X. It's just to the point. Look at Epsom, where last month, was it last month? There was riots, right? Because there was a rumor that an asylum seeker had abused a British woman on a night out. Police investigated. It turned out no crime was committed. She'd had a fall. She'd hit her head. She was confused, right? Now, believe what you want of that. But the evidence wasn't there to show that there was any sort of incident. But despite that, there was riots. There was what people believed was a HMO with asylum seekers in it. Were getting rocks put through the window. And there was a massive riot outside. It turned out it was a home for vulnerable adults of all demographics. But they didn't need facts then. They didn't need any proof. They didn't need any evidence to have a riot and to kick off. But here we've got an example of, the victims are in court. Well, I don't know if the victims are physically in court, but the perpetrators of this abuse were in court. There was video evidence. I think they were sharing the footage with their friends that committed 10 or 11 acts as a group against these poor girls. And now, look, the thing is, we don't know. It's not. I think, especially because of their age, they're not really being described in the news. Whatever colour skin they are, where they're from, what their names are, whatever. That's fine. But because of that, because we don't know where these people are from or what their names are, no uproar, no riots, no calls for justice, nothing. And it is a disgrace. And this is the week after the Unite the Kingdom rally, where everyone's banging on about protecting women and girls. Where are those people now? Are they still hungover? Because this sounds like something people should be annoyed about, but it doesn't matter, does it? Because we don't know if it's been committed by someone. They don't know what the immigration status is of the offenders. So that's where we are. I made a video about it just before, and like straight away the comments are like, "Yeah, but you're still more than happy to you're still more than happy to allow people to enter this country who don't know if they're rapists or paedophiles or this or that." No, well, it's and they're coming from countries where this sort of violence is acceptable. People just don't understand that in this country there's about 75,000 reported cases of rape, right? That's just the reported ones. I would imagine there's a lot more that aren't being reported. These are just the ones that are being reported. How many of those do you think ends in prosecution or a charge to the offender? What percentage? You think quite a decent amount, wouldn't you? 75,000 reported cases of abuse. Try not to say the R word because I don't know if it affects the censorship model. What do you reckon? 75%? 50%? So half of them get away with it? That would be mad, wouldn't it? If half of the people committing those crimes just got away with it. 20%? 10%? It's 3%. 3% of reported R words end in charges or prosecution. So that means if you do that, right, and that's only if the victim reports you. So it'll be the odds will be greater. We live in a country where if you commit that crime, the odds are 97 times out of 100, at least, you'll get away with it. And you're telling me we're not a country that finds that acceptable and normalize it? Because I don't see any uproar about that. Like, what are we talking about? And then the counter that is, yeah, but that we've got enough problems in our country. Why we're letting people from abroad come and right? Okay, well the problem's men, right? The problem's men. So let's stop bringing men into the country. Okay, let's stop having babies. That's what my argument is. Stop having babies because you're making more men. You're making more men, and the chances are some of those babies will turn into men that will commit those crimes. It sounds crazy, but it's not. Because that's the argument that they're having is we can't let people into the country because there might be a paedophile or there might be a rapist. We're surrounded by them in this country, and we're not doing anything about it. It's sad. It's a proper heavy conversation to have, but it's reality, man. And the more we focus on the skin color of the perpetrators of these crimes, the more we insult the victims. Because do you think the victims take comfort in the skin color of their abuser's skin, or what religion they follow, or what their immigration status is? Of course they don't. It's just like this weaponization of these horrific crimes, man. And it's this thing, I mean, I'm probably going off a little bit. Not all men. It's not all men. It's not all men. Well, for a lot of women, they live in fear of all men. For a lot of women. And I think we need to remember that. So, yeah, bit of a grim one for a Friday afternoon, but it's just frustrating, man. When you see what's going on United Kingdom, it's just a big lie, the whole thing. And you've got these content creators who are like, yeah, it's patriotic. We're standing up for this country. No, you're not. You haven't got a clue, man. You have not got a clue. If you really cared about this country, if you really cared about the people in it, you'd be campaigning with people like Rape Crisis, not Tommy Robinson. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, man? It's absolute carnage. But yeah, I think I've got a little bit off my chest there, and I feel a little bit lighter. Hopefully, I haven't dumped it on you. But yeah, drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Am I just a loony lefty? Am I crazy? I don't think I am. I think I just actually care about victims of these crimes. I think I care about this country. And the fact that we just scapegoat these people, we pretend that immigration's the problem. We pretend that we're all skint because of immigration. Like I said, it's £10 out of £2,000, and that's the thing that's making us skint. Yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, man. But what's Nigel Farage going to do anyway? Because at the start of this, I said, is he in trouble? I think he is. Because if it comes round to general election time, immigration's down, we haven't got any asylum hotels open, who's he going to blame then? Who's he going to blame? I tell you who, he's going to blame the very people who support him. Poor people, working class people, people like me. That's not me saying I support him, by the way. It was people like me from my sorts of backgrounds, working class backgrounds. We're the next. I'm telling you now, we're the next people to blame, man. It'll be benefits. It'll be people doing this. People not working hard enough. It'll be kids. It'll be disabled people. It'll be LGBT. It'll be anybody but rich people. And remember that. Happy Friday, everyone. Like, subscribe, do all the things. I think apparently what people say on YouTube is like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Whatever that means, do it, because apparently it's going to help my YouTube channel. And it's massively appreciated. And it's all free. That's been a Cuppa with Craig. This is called again. I'm definitely going to do one of these every Friday, but it'll be potentially just chuck some on through the week as well if people are enjoying them. So I hope you did. And if you disagree with us, look, I'm open to the conversation. I'll say things on these because I'm chatting into the camera for half an hour. Right? I'll say things that are wrong. I will. I'm not perfect. I'm open to the conversation. I'm not married to my ideas. I say it all the time. I think it's important to question your opinions at times. So if people disagree with us and I'm getting things wrong, drop me a comment. Let me know. Doesn't offend us. I just think there's some important stuff going on at the minute, and we need to talk about it. We need to listen to each other. Yeah. Like I said, like, follow, subscribe, follow me on all my Instagrams and all that sort of stuff. That guy, Craig. And thanks again. Have a good weekend, everybody. Happy bank holiday weekend.